Hello, and welcome to DFS Deep Dive. My name is Brian Craighead, and I, along with Gladys, will be your co-host this evening.
Hi. How are you doing, Brian?
Good. How are you doing, Gladys?
Pretty good. Yeah, just got back from work. Great American Beer Festival's going on, so it's a little crazy.
I understand. It's. I'm just glad to be here. We had a week 2 episode, and then week 3, my mom came down with a pretty bad case of Alzheimer's. She's been dealing with that for about a year. And
Okay.
we had to take her to the hospital for further nourishment and all that. And now she's been there for 2 weeks, so we're kind of going through that. And then last year, we did this through the cut, and Christian Williams, he wound up going to bigger and better things. So I had 2 co-hosts, Mav and Luke, and they both dropped out on me. So I'm glad to have you, and I know we both work for Going for 2, so that ought to make things a little bit easier.
Yeah. I'm Going for 2. You do the Dynasty Gambit. Is that right?
I do. I did that last night with the guys. So Devin and Jay were on with that, so I was excited with that. What are you doing over there?
I do the Monday night. It's mostly the doc's injury report for the next week. He tells you, what guys have, what injuries, and then I write the start sit column for weekly redraft.
You on the Monday night show, then you're on with Kyle Sindra and the doctor himself, right?
Kyle Sindra, the doc, and the B League. Yep, all 4 of us. The doc's awesome. Good. If you guys,
that's a great group. But yeah, that's definitely a great group. Definitely some heavy hitters there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, have you ever been on one with Kyle?
I have. Kyle and I were doing the Dynasty Gambit together on Thursday nights, and I understand he does curling. So he's a curler, which I get to watch for the Olympics every 4 years. But if you ask me much about it, I don't have a lot of clue on that one. So.
Well, I did not know that. I'll have to bring that up Monday.
You'll have to. He's curling, and apparently, it sounds like he's got a league on Thursday nights because season started week 1. He's been on once, I think, with us to the Dynasty Gambit, but he was off all off season from March until just the week 1. So yeah, okay. Further, and he had to step out on us. So you have to ask him about that. I don't know if he's the one that throws the disc or is the one that's doing the sweeping.
Yeah, we were talking about that today at work, actually.
Were you?
Yeah, about curling. It was just a weird thing. So we are doing the DFS. Were we doing cash games?
We are doing cash games.
All right.
I'm one that believes in even in horse racing. I'm the same way. As like I play win, place, and show. I don't do any of the exotic bets, the trifectas, and all that because I feel like the pools are larger, they're harder to hit. Right. So in cash games, basically half the field can win. So I try to make it reasonable for viewing audience. But
okay.
So yeah, we're definitely going to do cash games. I think it's important that we're let everybody know that we're with For Fantasy's Sake. You can find all of our Twitter information at FFSQC. And then also in terms of our written content, which I did a lot of writing last year, I did like 3,500 words. But Yikes. You can you can find all that for FantasySakeQC.com. And we have several shows. I'm actually on the Sunday morning show as well with DJ there that you just met. And I think you've known DJ for a little bit, but I'm on the Sunday morning show with him, and that's on from 10 to 11:30. So always feel free, anybody that's listening, to jump in on that. And then in addition, we got several other podcasts that I want to give a brief mention to, and then we'll hop into some DFS content. So like I said, we got several other podcasts that are important to know about. We've got Educated Ignorance with Joe Winkle. That'll typically drop on game day. So that's going to drop, a lot of times it's going to drop on Mondays and Thursdays, I believe. Then we have what's called the Data Lab with Professor John Bush. and Dennis Mickelson. We've also got card subject to change. That one was a real surprise to me. When they said card subject to change, I actually thought they were talking about like who the hosts were going to be and all that good stuff. But
Yeah.
it turns out that's actually a wrestling podcast.
Oh,
So I think that's pretty cool.
that is pretty cool. I've never heard of one
I like
before.
wrestling, so I was pretty amazed for that. So Chris, Zach, and Nick Bull are on that. And last but not least, we've got the Monday Night Hammer. It actually last year was on Monday nights, but now it's on Thursday nights. So a little bit of a change up. So we got the Monday Night Hammer dropping on Thursdays. So, I mean, I personally think that's pretty awesome. So,
On your Sunday show, are you doing start sits? Is that what you do Sunday?
we do a wide variety of stuff.
Okay.
We do a Tinder segment. The first segment we do is kind of in the dating game. DJ comes up with a wide variety of 5 to 7 topics.
Okay.
Like last week, one of the topics are whether we're still in on DJ Moore or not, and we determine whether we're still viewing as like a top 24 wide receiver, and if we do, we swipe right, and if we think he's less, we swipe left. So that's pretty fun. And then after that, I actually do some more DFS stuff. I've got last year I was on it for 15 minutes. For 15 minutes out of the hour and a half. And this year I was lucky enough they wanted me to come on for the whole hour and a half. So
nice.
So I've got a DFS segment. We got a guy that does prop betting, also does spread picks. So we just got a wide variety of stuff. So
yeah, sounds
it's
fun.
pretty cool. Like you said, we do cash games here. We do DraftKings. So that's kind of important. And then we've got I've got a couple of ways of doing things that I kind of like to look at. Basically, most of my decisions are based on implied totals.
Okay.
Implied totals. I'm assuming you're familiar with implied totals.
Yeah.
You are.
I am.
I figured you were. Somebody with your expertise would be. But as a brief explanation to anybody watching, implied totals are based on the Vegas over under. Basically, as an example, on Monday night, the Chiefs and Raiders are playing, and the over under for that is 51. So the spread for the Chiefs is 7. So at that point in time, you got to cut that 51 and a half, and you're looking for a total 29 to 22 would be 7 points between the two, and 29 plus 22 is 51. So basically, the implied total for the Chiefs is going to be 29, while the implied total for the Raiders is going to be 22. Add the two together, you get 51 for your over/under. And then the other thing that I look at is defensive points against. So for all 4 of your major fantasy positions, being quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end, I look at to see who's been giving up the most fantasy points to the opposing skill positions. And I typically try to get a game that's got a high implied total and also against the defense that hasn't been very successful in terms of stopping one of those 4 major positions. And that's how I determine a lot of my stuff.
So. I like it because Vegas very seldom loses money. So you can trust their implied total there. Although last week was a rough week, but I think the weather, the hurricane helped or hurt a lot of them. And then I like people that like so many people don't pay attention to the defenses teams are playing against, which is ridiculous because if you're, let's say like Sunday, my Steelers are going against the Buffalo Bills. It would be crazy not to realize the Buffalo Bills are like the number 1 top 3 defenses in passing touchdowns, rushing. So, you have to have an idea of what the defense you're going against, your persons that you're playing are going against.
I didn't realize you're a Steelers fan. Same here.
Yep.
I've got a Rams jersey on right now, but I've actually got 3 jerseys. I'm kind of embarrassed with this one, but I still wear it. Not that I don't like the Rams, but the player that's on the back, I'm not proud of him at all.
Who's the player?
I'm Zach Stacy, unfortunately. I graduated from Vanderbilt. My first 2 jerseys were both Vanderbilt players.
Okay. Well, that's understandable.
Jordan Matthews that played for the Eagles for a little bit, and then also Zach Stacy. But like I said, he was a good player, but embarrassed by his off-field stuff, ridiculous. And then now, like I said, I'm a Steelers fan, so I've got a Deontay Johnson. So
all my jerseys are Steeler jerseys, but I never get a jersey of a current player. Like all my jerseys are Jack Lambert, Jack Ham, Franco Harris, Terry Bradshaw, Troy Polamalu.
that's pretty cool. Who's your all-time favorite Steeler?
Troy Polamalu, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. I just love the way he played. I loved him on the field and off the field. His stuff, Troy Polamalu is my all-time favorite Steeler. My least all-time favorite Steeler has been Roethlisberger. I just couldn't stomach Roethlisberger. I mean,
stuff he did off field, probably.
Yeah.
My favorite, mate. Well, besides the Jacks, Lambert and I think Kevin Green.
Yeah. Okay. That's valid.
Just his enthusiasm for the game, much like Polamalu.
Who does he coach with now? Doesn't he coach for somebody?
He probably does. I off the top of my head, I don't really know.
I want to say the Packers,
Carolina,
or Minnesota. Yeah, it's someone in the Midwest, I think. Anyway, sorry, that was off course. But yeah, I don't ever buy because they trade teams so often now. Like there are people out. I live in Denver, and there are people out here who have a number 3 jersey, and all they did was like put tape over Locke's name and just write Wilson in because they trade so much, and those jerseys are so expensive.
Oh, they're $100 or more a piece, and
yeah.
I guess they're going to have to black out Wilson's number after last night with somebody else.
Was that not the saddest game ever? Like I couldn't even watch past the first half. He missed 2 wide receivers so bad. Like I don't even know if the receiver ran the wrong route or Wilson was just off, but he missed Cortland Sutton on the side really bad. And then he missed Jerry Jeudy, not as bad. And then he kept throwing at Stephon Gilmore, who the only defensive back that the Colts have worth anything, and you're going to keep trying him. I was like, I can't even watch this game anymore.
It was sad. And then I think of the game, from what I've read, I actually, now that they've gone to Amazon Prime, I don't have that.
Oh.
So I follow along on CBS Sportsline for the games.
Okay.
But I understand it, last night, at the end of the game, last play, he missed KJ Hamler on that one, I think. Hamler wound up spiking his helmet out of disgust for the whole thing.
Yeah, everyone, plus, Denver, the people out here are just football crazy, but it was Nathaniel Hackett's fault. And now people are starting to blame Wilson. So it's just out of control. I mean, they only scored 9 points last night. They only scored 9, not a touchdown, 9 points, 3 field goals. That's an overtime game. That's crazy. That's just crazy with the amount of money they're paying him.
Yeah, $245 million
guaranteed.
That's just pathetic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I was saying, those are a couple of aspects I like to go with. What I want to do briefly, and then I'm going to kick it over to you. Were you able to come up with a lineup that you kind of liked this week?
I've come up with a few players I like. It's not a complete lineup. You'll have to mix and match. But yeah, I have a few players that I like.
Okay, that'll be good. What I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and list what I like to do near the top of the show. Is go ahead and list some games that the implied totals are kind of high, and those are some games that I'll be kind of focusing on through my players and stuff.
Okay.
But we've got 12 total. Out of those 12, you've got 3 teams that are not on the prime time, not on the main slate this week. There's 12 games in the main slate. Then along with that, like we were talking about, you had the really ugly game last night. You've got another London game this week featuring the Packers and Giants. Then on Sunday night, we've got the Ravens, and we've also got the Bengals. So it's the Bengals at the Ravens. And then Monday night, we've got the Raiders at the Chiefs. So we got some pretty good scoring teams. We got the Packers, of course, in that group. We've also got the Ravens and also the Chiefs, and Bengals are pretty good as well. But so all 4 of those teams are kind of 24 points or more. But in terms of other teams to focus on here, during the main slate. We've got the Bills playing our Steelers. Their implied total is 30. The Jaguars are sitting at 26. They're playing the Texans. You got the Vikings sitting at 25. They're playing the Bears. You got the Saints 25 versus the Seahawks. Chargers 24 at the Browns. The Dolphins 24 at the Jets. The Rams 24 versus the Cowboys. The Bucks 28 versus the Falcons. And last but not least, you got the Eagles 27 at the Cardinals. So needless to say, those 9 teams that I mentioned there with 24 points expected or more are kind of teams that I'll be kind of looking at and forming some of my lineups. And one thing that's also important to remember, we've got a $50,000 cash, we've got a $50,000 salary maximum, and you got to fill 9 positions. So we're looking at quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a defense, and a flex. And so, needless to say, when you're only looking at 50,000 for 9 players, you're averaging a little bit over 5,000, 5,500, something like that. So you got to find some value somewhere. So I'm going to kick it back over to you, and you can give me some players that you're kind of interested in this week.
Well, I have a question for you first. Are you focusing on all those 9 teams? Is that how you do it? Like, so I focus on like games that I think have that I think the implied total may be high, but games that I think might also blow up. I that's a lot of teams. You focus on 19. How many lineups do you put in?
Oh, actually, for the weekend, I only put in a couple of lineups, but
That's a lot of focus. I
it
couldn't
is
do
a
it.
lot of focus. I probably work each week. I probably work on it. I don't know. I worked on it a couple hours yesterday for the Dynasty Gambit, and
Right.
then today I probably worked on it another 3 or 4 hours. So each week I put in probably 6 hours for my DFS stuff, but not nearly some of our friends on Twitter. I know.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what's Chris? The one guy that's got like 11,000 followers. He's Chris Robin.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah.
Have you seen Chris?
I've seen Chris. I've seen like the paper that he works on. It's ridiculous. Like, uh, it's like a beautiful mind kind of thing going on there. So I for this week, I focused on like 3 different games.
Oh, that's perfectly great. That'd be awesome. We can talk. We'll talk about those games, and I'll throw out some players that I like, and we'll go
Okay.
from there.
So the Eagles and the Eagles and the Cardinals game is one. The Cowboys and the Rams, but only on the Cowboys side. Like I'm not really crazy about any of the Rams players right now. And the Texans and the Jaguars are the 3 games that I focused on. But a lot of that was GPP. So for cash, quarterback, Jalen Hurts. I think uh, he's like he's the third. He has the 3rd most rushing touchdowns, like out of everyone, not out of quarterbacks, out of running backs, out of running backs and quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts has the 3rd most rushing touchdowns, and he's throwing this year. So for a cash game, I think Hurts is what is he? 1,000 less? How much less than Josh Allen? Like Josh Allen's always in play. You're always gonna,
Yeah,
no
this
matter who
week
they're
they're a
playing
little
against.
bit close. This week they're a little bit closer in value than I expected.
I
Hurts
know.
Hurts is actually sitting at 8,100. Um, like you said, they're playing at the Cardinals.
Right.
Josh Allen's sitting there at 8,200 versus our Steelers. But like you said, typically speaking, they're about $1,000 apart. But either way, I like both matchups. Unfortunately our Steelers give up the 21st most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks, and Hurts' matchup is 19th. So they're both bottom half. So I totally agree with you on Jalen Hurts.
Well, if that game script goes accordingly, it shouldn't be like my only worry, and I know everyone says this. My only worry about about playing Josh Allen is, remember, was it like their first game against the Rams? They set him in the second half when they were so far ahead. But they had to get ahead, so he'll have those 3 touchdowns, but he's still going to sit out if they which really pains me to say, if they're up by like 2 or 3 touchdowns. Hurts, I think, is going to be a more competitive game, and
Yeah.
I don't remember them ever sitting him out. So that's the only reason I would play Hurts in a cash game over Allen is
No,
because
I totally agree with you because the one thing about Kyler Murray, he's not always pretty, but he always keeps you in the game. I
true,
mean, he's
true.
always kind of like a few weeks back when they came back and beat the Raiders.
Oh yeah,
He's always in keeping them in the game, so you don't expect a blowout. Now, one thing I will say, bringing up the Steelers Bills game,
hmm
is that the Bills have a lot of injuries out there in regards to the receiving. Dawson Knox has already been declared out. Jamison Crowder's got a broken arm, I think it is,
I
and
think it's ankle. I think he
he's
broke his
out.
ankle.
And Isaiah McKenzie's in concussion protocol, so he may not play either. So Steelers always seem to find a way. I think last year we got beat by 10 or 12 points up in Buffalo.
Right.
So I don't know. We may keep it closer than the 14.
I don't think like I bet that game. I bet the line because I don't think they'll lose by 14 points. I think we'll lose, and I don't think it'll be pretty. I say, wait, I think the Steelers will lose, and I don't think it'll be pretty, but I don't think they're going to lose by 2 touchdowns.
That's
I think,
a lot of
yeah,
points to
that's
give.
a lot of points to give up. And the defense, I saw a stat today where the run defense is so much worse without TJ Watt in, and now I just read that he suffered a setback in his rehab, so he's not coming back anytime soon. But I just don't see them losing. I don't see a Mike Tomlin team getting beat that bad.
He's got too much pride to get beat that bad.
I know. And Pickett's just got too much confidence in himself. He's
Yeah,
just going to throw that ball up all day long.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, I just feel like we'll stay inside the number. It won't be easy, and we may get outside the number at some point in time. But I think if nothing else, we'll backdoor cover. So
So who would you play? Would you play Hurts or would you play Allen in a cash?
I'm on Hurts as well.
Are you on Hurts as well? Yay.
But
My
for
first
my
time.
lineup, it's going to be hard, and I'll go over my 9-man lineup here in a little bit.
Okay.
It's going to be a little hard for me to get either one of them and maintain my lineup. A lot of times for me on quarterback, I usually go a little bit less unless I really love the matchup, and I also like to stack. So I like to find a Diggs Allen stack or Hurts AJ Brown. Last week I actually went Hurts and Miles Sanders, so that worked out pretty good.
Yeah, it worked out really good for you. It had to. If I was stacking, I would actually stack Hurts with Dallas Goddard in this game. I don't because Arizona is so bad against, which is really weird, right? Because 2 years ago, Arizona was really bad against the tight ends, and last year they were really good against tight ends, and now this year they're really bad against the tight ends again. So I would, if I'm stacking, I'm going Hurts and Goddard, but I don't know if Hurts can play naked because of his rushing ability. I wouldn't it wouldn't bother me to not stack him in
Yeah,
that game.
I don't blame you. I was looking at my tight ends here. Goddard is actually one of my three top plays this week. So
Who are
I
your other two?
God, I'm trying to
Oh,
find.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Um, I like Goddard. I like Schultz too. I like Dalton Schultz if he's playing. I haven't I heard if he practiced today, but I like Dalton Schultz. And in that same game, I like Zach Ertz in like the revenge mode, but not even the revenge mode. But I like Zach Ertz as a comeback player in that game if I were going to do so. Maybe more GPP than cash, but it would be Goddard, Schultz if he's available, and Zach Ertz because we're missing the big guys. No Andrews, no Kelsey, and
That's a
no
very good.
Tanya.
I have written down here is that Kelsey's on Monday night and Andrews is Sunday night. So
Yeah.
got to keep those in mind. They're usually slam dunk plays that you can't play. So you were asking about my other tight ends. I've actually got Goddard. I liked Njoku
Oh, yeah.
versus the Chargers, and also like Tyler Conklin versus the Dolphins. They're a little bit cheaper pricing. Njoku is 3,800 and Conklin's at 3,700. And surprisingly, the Chargers give up the 13th, which isn't great. But the biggest surprise is the Dolphins give up the 28th most points to fantasy tight ends. So those are a couple of cheaper guys. And in my lineup, you'll see who I went with. It's definitely different.
Okay. For running backs, I like in this particular. So either of the New England running backs, I think, is a viable choice here against Detroit because Detroit's just a set as far as running backs go. But I would probably go Stevenson over Damian Harris in a cash lineup. Stevenson has been out snapping him, and he is more, especially if Mac Jones is back. If Mac Jones is back, I would go Stevenson over Harris. I heard he was practicing, or he wants to get back in the lineup, which I'm not sure that's going to mean anything now that the whole Tua concussion thing is happening. But I would definitely Ramon Stevenson and Leonard Fournette would be my two main running backs. I think even if Tampa gets ahead of Atlanta, I think they're going to run the score up on them. And I think Leonard Fournette is going to be, Brady has all his weapons available now. I kind of sneakily think they might, because everyone's available, if that game gets up, Godwin's going to come out so as not to cause further injury. Fournette and Mike Evans would be my two choices in that game. Brady.
I totally agree. You'll see Mike Evans here when my lineup. Now, a couple other points I agree with. Ramondre Stevenson seems to be getting more of the backfield share, but they're both good prices at 5,600 for Harris and 55 for Stevenson.
Mm-hmm.
And name to throw out there, you're talking about Lenny there. I actually like Rachaad White in the second half for a little bit cheaper. So,
what do you think they'll play him?
Point favorite against the Falcons. So
right.
Second half, I could see them getting more opportunity. And last week, Rachaad White had 36% snap share, so he's starting to get more work. So I think he could be somebody for cheap if you wanted to go contrarian. So
which New England running back would you use?
I'd go Stevenson ahead of Harris, but you really can't go wrong for setting your value. It's kind of a personal preference, I guess, but right. I agree with you on Stevenson.
Does it matter to you who is the quarterback, if it's Zappe or if it's Jones? No,
I don't think it matters that much. I think it's going to be the rookie at starting quarterback this time. Okay. Mac Jones still seems to be a week away in regards to the injury, and then they put Hoyer. They put the old man on IR. So,
yeah. So, all right, and then wide receivers. Okay, here's the problem with wide receivers for me. Anyway, you always want to play Cooper Kupp, and he's so expensive. Like 96, that's like ridiculous. Like you would have to be bargain shopping on almost every other position if you're playing Kupp. But how can you not play Kupp? Because he's Cooper Kupp, and he's going to get 15 targets a game and probably score 25 is probably his floor, actually. So, but I would also want to play like a wide receiver out of the Miami game. So you would have to probably pivot down to Jalen Waddle because Tyreek Hill, you can't, there's no way you can play Cooper Kupp and Tyreek Hill. Unless you're playing Teddy Bridgewater. If you're playing Jalen Hurts. And then I also like Christian Kirk because I think last week was an anomaly for the Jacksonville playing in that monsoon up in Philly. Trevor Lawrence has been balling out. Christian Kirk is his favorite person to ball. But sneakily, and maybe this might be more for JPP, Marvin Jones Jr. is sneaking up in the snap counts. So I have no problem playing him either Kirk or him. Zay Jones, I think he's still hobbling, so I have no interest in him.
Yeah, one thing on that Dolphins game, I agree. I like both the guys. Mm-hmm. Of course, Tyreek Hill's price is more than Waddle, but they're both listed as questionable right now. I think they're playing, but whom I don't know. So always remember, and it doesn't matter whether it's for this Dolphins game, but every Sunday, always check your inactives at 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, I live in Central, so I've got to remember from that time zone. And actually, Gladys lives an hour behind. She lives in Mountain Time, which I don't have a lot of friends in Mountains, so it's kind of you just got to keep those inactives in mind when you're setting your lineups,
Well,
whether it's for DFS or your regular season. So,
like last week, not me specifically, but people in Mountain and people in Pacific time, the Kamara not playing, the Kamara scratch screwed him over because it was like 6:30 in the morning for us when he decided not, no one's up then. No one got him out. No one got him out of their lineup. So
did you
yeah,
have Kamara in yours?
I have no piece of Kamara in anything I'm playing in this year. I thought he was going to be suspended because of the off-field stuff that happened in off season, so I didn't draft him. But yeah, no. One of the guys I work with at Rasball had him in his lineup, and he's in California, and he didn't get the notification. So Kamara was in his lineup. It was a late scratch, and yeah. So there's a London game. Check, especially the Green Bay wide receivers and the Giants. Who's wide receiving for the Giants?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. So both Kadarius Toney and Wandale Robinson were ruled out today, so
Yeah,
they're not available.
Kenny Galladay didn't make the trip,
and Shepard's out, of course. I forget the guy's name. Some rookie that they've picked up that's done okay. But
Richie James. Is that
what is it?
Is it Richie James?
Yeah, he's more of a veteran. They've got I forget the other guy's name. They got two. One guy that played for the 49ers last year. That he what is his name? I wouldn't play any Giants receiver. To me it's Saquon Barkley or bust. I think.
I maybe Bellinger. I would play.
Maybe Bellinger. Yeah.
Darius Slayton.
Yeah, you could.
No, I wouldn't play him. I'm Bellinger or Barkley, the only two I would ever play until. Plus, Danny Dimes is hobbling around, so no Tyrod because he's in concussion protocol. Danny Dimes is hurt, but he's going to play. Yeah, Barkley's the only way to go.
Yeah, it really is. Like you said, if you want to go really, really inexpensive, it's tight end, you could go Bellinger, but pretty much you've got to go Barkley.
Yeah.
And then out for the Green Bay side, you've got a lot of if you want to play a single game, you have a lot of interesting things. But like you said, like Dobbs last year's Dobbs now seemed to be the wide receiver one there for pricing. Lazard is usually a little higher priced, but at least he's not on our main slate here. So if you want to play a single game, that could make that pretty interesting for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Who are you going to pick? So wide receivers. Back to the wide receivers. I would fade Cup this week. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean you got to go Cup pretty much every week. Now the only thing that I always have a hard time doing is when you have one and Cup's the highest wide receiver on the board, deservedly so price wise. But then when you do that, you've got to find the value elsewhere, and that's what always makes it tough for me to get some of these higher price tag guys in there. You want them, but then he's about the only one of the few that's actually going to be consistent enough to give you 2 to 2.5 times your salary in regards to production. So if you want him, I think he'll put up the numbers. It's just what do you have to trim elsewhere?
So is Cup in one of your lineups this week?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would always encourage anybody that's like I said, willing to find value elsewhere. It's just sometimes hard. I think with me when I go for value, I'm always looking for defenses that I feel like I've got value with, and also tight ends is where I start. And then when I tell you my lineup, you'll like one player that I've got on here for value. So you've already mentioned him and your favorite team. So
yeah. So I would in this week I would fade Cup against the Dallas secondary. I would play Mike Evans for sure. All day, Mike Evans, all day, Christian Kirk. And then that third one, Jalen Waddle to me is looking really good. The Jets are giving up but that would be Tyreek Hill. The Jets are giving up an average of 20.7 points per game to the outside receiver, which would be Hill, but it's the Jets. So, and Teddy B likes it. Doesn't he's not Tua. He's not going to throw it that deep. We were counting on yards after catch. Waddle's really good in yards after catch. Waddle, Kirk, Evans, my three.
Hey, I definitely agree with you on those. So, did you have any tight ends that you wanted to focus on?
I'm gonna stick with Goddard. I'm gonna stick with Goddard because I would stack him with Jalen Hurts for that game. So Goddard, and if I can't fit him in price wise, I would. Will Dissly has like three, and it really hurts to say this, but Will Dissly has like 3 touchdowns, and Geno isn't looking terrible. In fact, Geno's looking better than Russell Wilson right now. So
I think Geno deserves even more credit than not looking terrible. He
I
actually
know.
looks average, which honestly, if you'd have told me that at the beginning of the year, I would have told you that they made a heck of a trade getting rid of Russell Wilson. But I didn't expect him to be average. But he's been that, maybe a little bit better. I think
completion percentage.
He's like QB 12 or something on the year or better. So he's been good.
He's been very good. He has the best completion percentage out of all the quarterbacks. But he hasn't. I mean, you're talking about Detroit. He played Detroit, and they're not really a powerhouse. I would like to see how he's going to do against New Orleans and Marshawn Lattimore, because that's going to be a different little story. But yeah, I would play Dissly. But my main focus would be Dallas Goedert, for sure.
Makes sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my entire 9-man lineup.
All right, let's hear it. Let's make it.
So this is for good fun here. So we've mentioned some implied totals and some points against and that kind of thing. So each time I try to come up with a stack. In fact, when I hop on with them Sunday morning, that's one of their favorite questions for me. Who's your favorite stack?
Okay.
Well, this week I'm going Tom Brady, sitting at $6,000, and you've already mentioned him, but I'm going with Mike Evans myself.
Nice.
And he's sitting at $6,900. So that's my stack. I didn't feel comfortable coming. A lot of times I like to come back with a comeback player.
Right.
But I didn't necessarily like to focus on anybody for comeback from Atlanta. But as a kind of a sneaky player at running back, there's always Tyler Algier. But I didn't write him in my lineup. But Caleb Huntley it's got to be very inexpensive. So if you really wanted to go contrarian, throw in a guy like Caleb Huntley and have all kinds of excess money. So, but I didn't do it in mine. My 2 running backs that I really like this week are Austin Eckler and James Robinson. Eckler was sitting at 7,800, and James Robinson sitting at 6,300. And as I've mentioned, they're both on teams that are expected to score a lot of points. Chargers at 24, and the Jaguars surprisingly are like one of the second highest implied totals on the board. So they're starting to get a lot of comeuppance.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the most surprising stat of the whole thing is the Jaguars face the defense in the Texans that give a 32nd absolute dead last most fantasy points to opposing running backs.
Yeah, they still suck.
I really, really like James Robinson here. At my other two wide receivers, we talked about already Mike Evans. I like the other Mike Williams, sitting at 7,100. The Browns give up the 17th most, so once again, a pretty decent matchup. And then I've given you some of my heavy hitters. So now we're going to start going into value plays.
Let me ask you a question.
I like Garrett Wilson of the Jets here.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Are you playing Eckler and Williams together?
Yeah, I love to when I can funnel targets on the same team on a high implied total.
Yeah.
I love to put teams. Love stacking.
Okay.
I stack not only quarterbacks and wide receivers, but I stack 2 players from the same team a lot of times, because the one thing about it is Keenan Allen's already been ruled out.
Okay.
And last week Josh Palmer had 1 catch for 25 yards. That was a little bit disappointing.
Didn't
So
he get
outside
hurt?
of Gerald Everett, I feel like we're looking at Williams and also Eckler as your funnels. So I
Okay.
definitely love stacking those guys. And then Garrett Wilson for the Jets is going to be my other wide receiver. He's averaging 15 points fantasy points per game on the season, and he's sitting at 5,200. So I think that's a good value play. And his opposing defense gives up the 28th most fantasy points. So that's the Dolphins. So I'm pretty excited about that for him. And now
Does
this is where my value really comes from. Like I was saying earlier, you have to get value from somewhere.
right.
And if you don't, it's going to be hard to make your lineup. So you've already mentioned him, but our man for the Steelers, Mr. Pickens, George
Yes.
Pickens, I'm going with him because he's sitting at
Like
4,300, which is one thing about both him and Garrett Wilson. They haven't adjusted to rookie price tags yet. It takes them a while. So, I'm gonna go with somebody like that. And last week, Pickett, his number one target was actually Pickens. So,
how are the Bills against outside wide receivers? Do we know? I know the answer to this.
well, I missed the question.
How are the Bills against?
Well,
Oh, the
that's a
Bills are
very good question. They're
19.
actually really good. They're it's the worst matchup on my card. They give up
Well,
the fifth least fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So
but
it
it's like the skew between what they give up to the slot and what they give up to wide. Like they give up 19.6 average to wide to receivers out wide. So Pickens is a really good choice. You know.
he is. That's actually more in depth than I go. I may have to learn more stuff from you.
No, but I mean, yeah, like Claypool's trash. I don't know what's wrong with him. But yeah, 19.6 and with a quarterback who's going to throw it to him now, that's you can get all kinds of value out of that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you're saying, Claypool. I hate to see it.
Gosh.
I've got him in like my league of record in terms of like redraft,
Yeah.
but he's buried on my bench. I've got Dubs and my receivers right now that you can only start two in the flex. So my receivers right now are Evans, Higgins, and AJ Brown. So
Wait, Evans. Good Lord. That's like murder's row of receivers right there.
yeah, so in my first four rounds, I went Taylor at the top, and then I went with those three receivers. And people are like, "Why'd you go three receivers?" I was like, "Well, to be honest with you, I'm picking first, so which means I picked 24th. So the best value on the board is at wide receiver. So I just went.
Oof.
Actually, Higgins was a keeper. You can keep one player from the year before,
Uh-huh.
so I kept Higgins. That was my one player, and then I picked up AJ Brown and Mike Evans. And last week they each just went off. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun.
For
I had a
you,
good
not
time. I scored the most points in the league last week. So, but I scored the most on the year, and my record's 1-3. So that kind of stinks. I've given somehow or another. I've scored the most, given up the most, and I'm 1-3. So that's okay. And so my last two positions, I've got to throw in a tight end and
Right.
defense.
Okay.
I went Logan Thomas at tight end because he fit in price wise at 3,200. But I think it's important everybody know that he's questionable right now, and his backup, if he doesn't play, is going to be a guy by the name of John Bates. He's at 2,600, and I'm okay if I have to go to Bates, I'm okay because really you're not looking outside of the top few tight ends as we both know. You're looking for touchdown or bust.
Yeah.
Um, so I just go cheap tight end. I mean, we're without Kelsey, we're without Andrews, and like I said, I love Goddard, but to get Goddard in my lineup, it would have been hard to come by price wise. So I went with Logan Thomas. And my defense, last but not least, I live in Nashville. I'm not a Titans fan,
Right.
but the Titans are my defense this week.
Against Washington? Oh yeah. Carson Wentz probably gonna throw a couple, if not 1,000. Yeah.
Interceptions.
Yeah.
Or
And a
pick
fumble or
sixes, maybe.
two. Yeah. It's
Yeah, so they're sitting at 3,000. So that's kind of kind of where I went with my lineup this time.
Can I ask you a question? So on the tight ends, where's Evan Ingram? Is he?
He's right below. He's right below him price wise. They're side by side, so he must be 30. He's either 32 or 31.
Would you play Ingram?
Yeah, I thought about him actually. It was a 50-50 toss up because, like you said, in that game, the Jaguars are expected to score a good number of points.
Right.
So yeah, I would have absolutely no issue playing with Evan Ingram.
Okay.
For whatever reason, ever since Thomas came into the league, or actually, started coming out he'd been in the league for a while. He started out as a quarterback, but so ever since he kind of came into predominance, I've kind of enjoyed him a little bit more than Ingram. But I like Ingram as a price play.
Well, the only reason I ask is because I don't have any faith in Carson Wentz, and I have a little more faith in Trevor Lawrence. Carson
Yeah,
Wentz.
I don't blame you. I could actually make that switch. It wouldn't be a bad idea at all. Did you have any other players? I have what they call pivot plays that I usually like to throw out.
Okay. If I have to throw out a pivot play for Debo Samuel, I like, but he's not going to be playing on the main slate. And Devontae Smith, I really, 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 really like that Philadelphia Arizona game. I think that Kyler Murray is going to put up a bit more resistance than people think he will. And I think he's going to start running some more. So I think the game is going to, I actually bet over on that game. I think it's going to go over the implied total. And I think that Jalen Hurts, and I would play Kyler Murray even. Either one of those quarterbacks, because of their rushing upside, their ceiling's higher. I love that game. I don't know why. I just love that
I
game.
like the game too. Each weekend there's a couple of games you have to get right to do well. I
Yeah.
think for me, it's that game, but I also like the Browns Chargers game quite a bit.
Is that in Cleveland or is it in LA? It's in
It's
LA.
in Cleveland.
Ooh. What? Okay, so what do you like about that game? Like, is Jacoby Brissett or
Yeah, no, I mean for the Browns, I would go with your running backs. The
Nick
Chargers are
Chubb?
awful against the run, so I'm okay with if
Yeah.
I wanted to pay up at a running back.
Mhm.
Besides Eckler, I would go with Nick Chubb. But at the same time, that's one nice thing about the Browns, which is you can't really say for any other team to speak of, is you could either go Chubb or Hunt and be okay. On,
Would you?
on the Chargers side,
Mhm.
obviously I had Eckler and Williams, but I would be willing to throw in Herbert. But I don't love 3-man stacks. I don't love going three men on the same team.
Would you play the two running backs? Would you play Eckler and Chubb if you could afford
You
it?
you could, yeah, for a comeback.
Yeah.
I think that would actually be a pretty smart play for your comeback player. You could always go with Chubb. Of course, now the only thing that makes it hard is they're both pretty
Price.
high priced, so you're going to
Price
have
tag.
to find even more value than what I've found to get him in your lineup. Because I'd be going from Robinson at 63 up to Chubb, which was at he's close to 8, so you'd have to
Oh,
find another $1,700 worth
yeah.
of value somewhere.
That's a lot, and you don't want to drop Eckler out of there because he has that target upside.
Yeah, that's the way I'm feeling. So we've kind of already mentioned Josh Allen as one of our players.
Mhm.
Hurts. A couple of other quarterbacks that I'm throwing out there, and you just mentioned one of them. I don't mind Kirk Cousins versus the Bears. He's sitting at 6,300. And last but not least, from our quarterbacks, and actually make a really inexpensive stack, would be Evan Ingram and Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence is sitting at 5,600. And the Texans aren't great against quarterbacks. So
Yeah, the Texans aren't great against much. Like you could stack Lawrence, Robinson, and Ingram, and I think it would be okay. You would be okay.
yeah, it'd be a very nice contrarian stack.
Yeah.
You got Kirk there that you could throw in with Ingram and Lawrence too if you wanted to. We've mentioned Kirk, so
Right.
that's something you could do. Let's see if there's any running backs we've not mentioned that I kind of like. We just mentioned Chubb. I guess I must be on the Vikings side a little bit because I like Dalvin Cook as well. I think his
Ooh,
price is actually pretty decent at 7,300.
ooh, that is good for Cook. If he, I heard his shoulder was in a sling on the way back from the London game. So I would be worried that if they get up, Madison would come in. I would play Madison as a contrarian play.
Madison might be the better play. It's definitely good, definitely a good matchup.
Yeah,
And if you got injury concerns with Cook, um, another running back I like is Miles Sanders this week.
that
He's at
Arizona game.
6,500.
Yep,
I
love
like
that
a
game.
lot of pieces in that
Yeah,
Cardinals Eagles game.
I do too. I do too. And back to Cook, like Doc was talking about the shoulder. Apparently, it's a chronic injury. It's an injury that Cook has had before. So if he hurts it really bad one more time, he is in. It's not without the realm of possibility that he just like pops that shoulder out and it doesn't go back in like it has been doing. So I don't know why he's still playing on it, and that's why I would stay away from Cook. I mean, I feel like one good hit and he's like out of the game.
That's actually a good call. They should actually, since that's the case, they should probably just give him a week or so off
Yeah,
and let him heal.
yeah.
I
Speaking
would
of which,
think.
that's why DeAndre Swift is Amon Ra. Do you know if Amon Ra practiced today?
Yeah, Amon Ra did practice. He has a limited practice today.
Hmm,
He's one of the few guys, and at the as we're kind of getting towards the end, and we can always throw out some injured players we know that are out. But he's
right.
the one guy that's kind of borderline. But he did practice after being out last week. So Swift is gonna be out. Um, an inexpensive play at receiver that I like there for the Lions is Josh Reynolds, and I'll go over him in just a minute. He, uh, but yeah, Amon Ra's playing. If Amon Ra plays, I don't like Josh Reynolds nearly as much. Obviously,
Well, if Amon Ra was limited, do you think that he would be like on a snap count?
he could be. Yeah, it'll
This
be
is
interesting to see what they come up with Sunday morning.
see,
Yeah,
I'm worried because I think Detroit is on their bye next week. So why, if Ramon Ross still hurt, why would you even play him against
yeah, they
Mahomes?
are on their bye, and that's why they're sitting Swift out. I mean, I don't know if Swift is really that close to playing,
Okay,
but they're deciding to go ahead and be a little bit more
cautious with him.
cautious with him. Yeah, so
Okay,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. I'm not. I have Amon Ra in like 3 leagues. I probably won't play him because I think that he's going to be one of those late scratches too, so they can hold him out one more week. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well,
He's
yeah, exactly. He's only his second year, so why
yeah
not give him a chance?
to heal or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. So I'm sorry. Good. So you were going to throw out a couple more players. I've
yeah.
thrown out all mine.
Another one I like against as the contrarian against the Jags is Pierce, Damian Pierce for the
Ooh,
Texans.
yeah.
He's sitting at 6,200, which is pretty cheap for his production. And that's last but not least on the running backs. Is I actually like Devin Singletary against our Steelers. They give up
See,
the 26th most fantasy points to running backs, and Singletary's pretty much last week. James White didn't have a single touch, and we all know Moss doesn't get much. So
yeah, and Cook is an afterthought. The Steelers are really bad against the run too. That's and Singletary was what did he have like 3 or 4 targets last week? So he's
yeah, that's
getting
the nice thing. It gives you a little extra floor
yeah,
that you aren't expecting. And he,
exactly.
he he did really great the last half of last year. And at the beginning of the year, they were trying to give Cook a little something. And now you said he was inactive last week.
Who Cook?
Yeah,
No, I just said he's worthless. No, he
yeah,
played. He just he's just not very good right now.
yeah. He didn't even have a single touch.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty good play against our Steelers. As much as I hate to say it.
I would actually play Singletary before I play Josh Allen against them because I don't think they want Allen to run, so they're letting Singletary run, and then in the passing game, he's going to get some of them. That's a really good play. I think I have to change my lineup. I think I have to change one of my lineups now. The
Yeah,
Singletary.
I like Singletary this week. I really do. A couple of less expensive wide receivers I'm going to throw out there. I
Okay.
just mentioned Josh Reynolds. He's at 4,900. they still have not adapted to Chris Olave to me. He's at 5,700, and Robert Woods is at 5,200. So those are a couple of guys I'd throw out there as potential. Treylon Burks is out this week, so Robert Woods should have increased value. And on the Olave, to me, it depends on how much you trust Andy Dalton, because Jameis is out also, but Michael Thomas is going to be out as well. So
Thomas is out?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd play Olave then for sure. Because
Thomas got declared out today, so Olave's got an increased target share, I would think, and he's already made himself number one.
Yeah, and he's good for Yak too. He's really good. I like the Olave play. Robert Woods, Washington's really bad against. I mean, they're giving like 32 points to the outside wide receiver, but I don't trust Tannehill for some reason.
I don't blame him. He's actually been better this year than last, but that's not saying much.
That's true. It's like the Derrick Henry show. Yeah, I want to play Robert Woods, but I just don't trust Tannehill.
I wouldn't blame you for sitting him. I'm just throwing him out there as somebody that, if you really wanted to go contrarian, his price tag's nice.
It is nice. That's what I'm saying. It's a great, and he's going against Washington's defense, who hasn't been able to stop the outside wide receiver. That's a great call. I just wish I had more faith in Ryan.
Yeah, I don't blame you for not. We've talked about our tight ends quite a bit.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody else that you'd like to throw out?
Nope. I just want everyone to know that don't pay up for your defense if you don't have to. Their variance is so unpredictable that you want tight ends and defense. You don't know what they're going to do. So get your good players in, get them in early, and then look at the injury reports for late minute drops, especially my boys and girls here on the West Coast. It's going to be early, that game. That London game's going to come at you quick. 7:30, I think, our time.
Yeah, keep in mind now, mostly what I play is going to be the main slate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to be, it wouldn't include the London game, but the London game can be played by itself for fun.
Or if season long, those season long players, 7:30 a.m. that game starts Mountain Time.
Yeah, exactly.
So keep a lot. And yeah, for your DFS main slate, remember your big boys aren't on it, so be creative with your lineups. You have that this week, because you don't have to worry about the Patrick Mahomes. You don't have to worry about the Lamar Jackson, which takes some of that. Oh, should I play Lamar or should I play Josh Allen? If that's your choice, you have Josh Allen. You can't play Lamar. He's not on the main slate. Can't play Patty Mahomes. He's not on the main slate. Can't play Mark Andrews. Can't play Travis Kelce. So half of it's done for you.
There's a lot of big names, like you said, that aren't on that main slate. I'm gonna go over real quick in terms of injuries, and then did you pick a few games for us as well, like I did?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me throw out some names that people already know. Some of this is repeat.
Okay.
Dak's not making it back this week. Maybe next week. We'll see. Tua, of course, is out. Mac Jones is out. That's and then last but not least, at quarterbacks, Jameis Winston, he's out. Your running backs that are currently not going to play are DeAndre Swift, Cordell Patterson. Tony Pollard's questionable. He came up with an illness today. I think he plays, but we'll see. And then David Montgomery, I didn't expect him to have any chance to come back, but he actually put in limited practices both yesterday and today. Okay. So keep an eye on the difference between him and Khalil Herbert. Both make good running back choices, but at the same time, if they're splitting carries, it makes it a little bit tougher. On the wide receiver side, Keenan Allen's out. DJ Chark is out. Like we talked about, Amon Ra's questionable, so we'll see. We've already talked about Waddle and Tyreek, so we'll see where that lands. They're both questionable right now. The other ones that are for sure out are Michael Thomas, Rashad Bateman, Treylon Burks, Laviska Shenault, Jahan Dotson, Wandale Robinson, and Jamison Crowder. All those guys are out. So kind of like we were talking about the Giants and who they're going to throw the ball to. God only knows. And Tony's out as well. And last but not least are a few tight ends.
Okay.
Mr. MIA himself, Kyle Pitts, he's out. Cameron Brate with a concussion. They're being cautious with him. And last but not least, Dawson Knox. All those guys are out. So
Kyle Pitts hurts because I keep playing him because I keep believing he's going to do better. But now I have to adjust my lineups accordingly. My season-long lineups, that is.
And that was him. I'm sorry.
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I've got him in a couple spots too. On Twitter, they're talking about, well, at least you don't have to put him in your lineup.
I know exactly.
I've got him and Logan Thomas in one league, so we'll see what goes on. I might have to look for another tight end if both are out. So I don't know. So Gladys, you said you made some game picks?
Yeah, I pick against the spread. So I have the Bengals 3.5. Baltimore is giving them 3.5. I picked them. I picked, and it's not a homer pick. I just don't think the Steelers are going to lose by 14 points. So I have the Steelers not giving up 14 points. And then last but not least, I have the Cardinals in the game that I love, keeping it closer than 5.5 over Eagles. So Arizona, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh are my 3 picks.
There you go. I actually went excessive. Since you went 3, I just doubled the number of picks this week. I went 6. So I said, why not?
Why not?
I try to stay away from our Steelers just because I don't like to bet for or against them. So that wasn't one of my picks. But I did totally agree with you on the Bengals pick. That's my pick. That's my underdog of the week is the Bengals plus the points. Other games I like.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Bucks minus 9.5 versus the Falcons. I like the Packers in the London game. I was surprised to see it's only 7.5. It had started out higher than that, but it's 7.5 just now. That's versus the Giants. I like the Vikings minus 7.5 versus the Bears because I don't think the Bears can score more than about 10 points, so it doesn't require much.
Yeah.
My pick of the week is going to be the 49ers minus 6.5 at the Panthers. I don't think the Panthers score more than 10. And then last but not least, on Monday night, I've got the Chiefs minus 7 versus the Raiders.
You don't think the Raiders are going to keep up with the Chiefs?
Do I think they can?
Yeah.
They did last year.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure they're as good a team as they were last year.
Okay.
They actually, from memory, I think that I know they split if they didn't sweep them last year.
Last year was the year that the Raiders won in Kansas City, and then they did that bus thing where they did the victory lap in their bus, and then they got beat. Then they got beat the next game. So yeah, but they're not playing really well. So with Devontae Adams, but Hunter Renfro's back, so that might help a little. But that's interesting. A touchdown. Okay.
Yeah, I hate the even like right at 7.
Right.
I mean, if you were at a place where you could buy half a point, I probably would.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, my game of the week is going to be the Steelers. I really don't think they're going to lose by 14. I really hope they don't lose by 14. So that's my pick.
You and me both. Being a Steelers fan, I would hate for them to lose like that, go out like that.
Me too.
Well, Gladys, you got anything else on DFS or picks or anything?
I do not. Everyone, play well, play fair, play happy, and don't. You know what? The one thing I have that I always say: keep within your budget. Please keep within your budget. Like, know how much you can spend it. Don't go over. Keep within your budget, guys.
Well, then if you have nothing else, I can't think of anything either. So why don't you tell us where everybody can find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Gladys L. Tyler, capital L, Tyler. And you can find me on Monday podcast with going for two. It's an hour before the game, I think, like 5 o'clock my time, so 7 o'clock Eastern time. The doc at TFS Doc will be giving you all the injury analysis that you need. The B League and Kyle will be giving you all the points that you need about the Monday night game, and we do prop bets. And then on Tuesday, I am in the Armchair Athletics is sponsoring a fantasy football contest called The Trenches. So you should look on that. I'm on it with Nikki Guest is my partner in that, and we're up against 11 other teams. And this week should be interesting because it's a 21-point cap, which means I can cap any of my players for 21 and cap my opponent's player for 21. So we'll see how that works out for us.
Oh, wow. That sounds like an interesting league.
It is very much so. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's something different every week.
So as for me, like I said, I'm the Dynasty Gambit on Thursday nights, over going for two. On Sundays, I'm here with for fantasy's sake doing an hour and a half pod, and then Gladys and I have this on Friday night. So all of my content you can find me at VandyGrad92. As for the DFS Deep Dive, we'll be on every Friday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. So we're weekly recurring, and we'll have hopefully have good results out there for you.
Yeah.
But just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in. I hate that we've kind of been inconsistent so far, but I think Gladys and I will provide you some consistency. And I know, speaking for myself, I'm looking forward to it. Gladys
I am too.
Is a great co-host.
No, you are. Thank you so much. It was so much fun. And we will see you guys next Friday, you guys, 6 o'clock my time. Mountain time's the only time that counts. I don't care what anyone else says.
That's right. So thanks again for everybody tuning in for Gladys and I. You'll have a great weekend, and we hope all your games are winning ones.
Exactly. Thanks. Bye.